the season finale of Plants of the Gods. Join host Dr. Mark Plotkin as we learn about everything mushrooms, which are truly having a moment. From hit TV show The Last of Us, to our favorite dishes, to psychedelia. Season 5 draws to a close with an eye-opening message about how fungi has shaped human culture and history.
Welcome back to Plants of the Gods. I'm Mark Plotkin, Dr. Mark Plotkin of the Amazon Conservation Team, and I'm your host for today. I want to do something special today. I wrote an editorial for the New York Times, which ultimately ran in HerbalGram magazine, which is a wonderful magazine, much beloved by everybody in the herb community. It's called The Mushroom Moment. It's an overview of how mushrooms in our daily lives, how fungi in our daily lives are revolutionizing our daily lives now and into the future. A major point of the Plant of the Gods series is to talk not only about hallucinogens as hallucinogens, but as plants and fungi and other compounds, which can have very important effects, primarily therapeutic, but not only therapeutic. The whole burgeoning field of microdosing is indeed about therapeutics, but is about taking hallucinogenic plants and fungi at non-hallucinogenic doses. The point being, these compounds have an effect on the body, and whether you are reaching nirvana or joining the chorus of pink elephants to hum Dark Side of the Moon, the point is that these things can help you. And this editorial, The Mushroom Moment, is about how mushrooms are helping us and can help us in ways never previously envisioned. Mushrooms are having a moment. While mushrooms typically are associated with culinary uses and sometimes poisoning, fungal species of the potentially therapeutic variety have captured the popular imagination and seem to be cropping up just about everywhere. Recently, Chilean biologist Giuliana Furci and her team christened Psilocybe stametsii, a new species of magic mushrooms, in honor of the trailblazing mycologist, author, and entrepreneur Paul Stamets, who I'm honored not only to call a friend, but to point out has recently joined the advisory board of the Amazon Conservation Team. This solitary, tiny matchstick-sized species from the cloud forest of the Los Cedros Biological Reserve in northwestern Ecuador was collected in 2011 by Bryn Dettinger and again in 2022 by Furci and her research team. Stamets is the protagonist of the 2019 documentary Fantastic Fungi, which I highly recommend, and has penetrated the popular consciousness so deeply that he inspired the creation of a character on Star Trek Discovery named, wait for it, Lieutenant Commander Paul Stamets, who creates a means of faster-than-light travel by fusing physics and mycology, the study of fungi. And microdosing, consuming minuscule amounts of hallucinogenic compounds like psilocybin, as detailed in Michael Pollan's compelling book, How to Change Your Mind, has become an increasingly popular practice. Some proponents believe that it can enhance creativity, reduce anxiety, relieve insomnia, slow the aging process, generate new nerve cells, and improved hand-eye coordination. Meanwhile, HBO's acclaimed series, The Last of Us, which premiered in January 2023, is based on a video game and inspired by the cordyceps fungus, whose unnerving parasitic life cycle is certainly stranger than most fiction. The fungus attaches itself to and infects a passing ant, devouring its internal organs while spreading slender thread-like fibers known as hyphae through the body of the insect. Having taken control of the ant's body and mind, puppeteering the insect, in the words of biologist Merlin Sheldrake, the fungus forces the ant to leave the safety of the insect colony and climb onto and bite into a nearby plant. Meanwhile, hyphae grow out of the insect's feet, stitching it to the plant and producing a stalk that punches upward through the insect's head, killing it and enabling the fungus to release spores that rain down on the forest and the insects below. This is why ethnobotanists don't read science fiction. But the cordyceps story has a therapeutic angle as well. Several cordyceps species are highly valued and widely used in tropical Asia, In ancient China, it was used for everything from impotence to lung problems, and a closely related species, Talipocladium, served as the original source of the pharmaceutical drug cyclosporin, whose discovery opened new doors in immunotherapy as one of the first drugs that safely and effectively suppressed the body's rejection of transplanted organs, helping to make organ transplant surgery, which were once a pipe dream, an everyday occurrence. Since the earliest written records, traditional Chinese medicine has made ample use of many fungi for medicinal purposes, and these so-called folk uses are now being investigated in labs around the world. Cordyceps preparations have shown promise for treating various afflictions and are already valued and sold in many countries for boosting energy levels and enhancing endurance during exercise and competitive sports. Human use of fungi as a treatment for bacterial and other infections began long before Alexander Fleming's discovery of penicillin in 1928, which still ranks as one of the most important developments in the history of medicine. Otzi, also called the Iceman, the 5,300-year-old Neolithic hunter whose extraordinarily well-preserved body was found by hikers in a glacier in 1991 in the Alps on the border between Italy and Australia, was carrying two fungi: tinder fungus, which was contained in a pouch and likely used as tinder to start fires, and two pieces of birch polypore that were attached to hide strips and possibly used to treat whipworm and or for antibacterial purposes as well. Accounts of fungal products used as anti-infectives in the ancient world are common. The Egyptians used moldy barley bread, the Hebrews used spoiled grains, the Greeks employed grime scraped from gymnasium walls, the Aztecs used moldy tortillas, the Chinese relied on spoiled soybeans, and the ancient Nubians made a beer rich in tetracycline. But it was Fleming's findings in a lab at St. Mary's Hospital in London and the commercial development of penicillin in time to help tip the balance in World War II in the Allies' favor that sparked major pharmaceutical industry interest in seeking new drugs from the fungal kingdom. Like cordyceps, penicillium fungi have more than one story to tell. This genus also gives us blue cheese, as well as cholesterol-lowering statins, among the most widely used drugs in the industrial world today. The more we study, the more we find. Mycologist and herbal clinician, my friend Christopher Hobbs, Ph.D., a leading authority on medicinal mushrooms, and I highly recommend his book by that name, said that, quote, fungi are increasingly proving to be effective in the lab and the clinic for the prevention, support, and or treatment of cardiovascular issues, metabolic syndrome, respiratory problems, stress, and overall immune response, as well as increasing energy and improving cognition. That we are now paying significant attention to fungi, be it for medicinal, culinary, industrial, storytelling, or other purposes, makes us very late to the party, considering that fungi first appeared on Earth more than 1 billion years before humans did. Today, one of the oldest and largest known living organisms on Earth is a fungus, a subterranean specimen of Armillaria, the honey fungus, commonly known as the humongous fungus, which covers about 3.7 square miles in the Malheur National Forest in the Blue Mountains of eastern Oregon. It may weigh up to 35,000 tons and be more than 2,000 years old. One potentially surprising aspect of fungus biology is that fungi are more closely related to humans than to plants. This may partly explain why the fungal kingdom has been such an important source of therapeutic compounds for humans, and while this little-studied yet highly diverse group of organisms remains such a promising source of new medicaments. In the words of Sheldrake, penicillin, a compound that could defend fungi from bacterial infection, turned out to defend humans as well. At a molecular level, fungi and humans are similar enough to benefit from many of the same biochemical innovations. End of quote. Wider use of medicinal mushrooms is underway in the veterinary realm, an industry whose annual value exceeds $20 billion. That's billion with a B. Veterinarians who use medicinal mushrooms for the canine patients report excellent results in many cases. Several studies in dogs have been published and detailed the potential benefits of certain mushrooms for aggressive cancers like maitake for lymphoma and turkey tail for hemangiosarcoma, an aggressive form of cancer that affects dogs and starts in the blood vessels. According to veterinarian Robert Silver, another mushroom, lion's mane, which is popular in the U.S. for enhancing memory and reducing anxiety, is helping improve the mobility of senior dogs with declining cognitive abilities and improving quality of life in other canines that have anxiety or post-traumatic stress disorder. People are embracing the benefits of mushroom diversity in other ways as well. 15 years ago, most grocery stores in the United States stocked only white button mushrooms. Today, major supermarkets offer a much more diverse fungal buffet. Cremini mushrooms, enoki mushrooms, lion's mane, maitake mushrooms, oyster mushrooms, porcini mushrooms, portobello mushrooms, and shiitake mushrooms. The annual value of this market has, mushroomed to more than $10 billion a year and is growing at an annual rate of about 9%. Physicians and researchers attribute the prevalence of cardiovascular diseases and other ailments, such as type 2 diabetes, at least partly due to insufficient consumption of dietary fiber. High consumption of fiber is associated with increased gut microbiota diversity and health. According to Hobbs, edible mushrooms possess some of the highest dietary fiber content of any foodstuff and are rich in vitamins, minerals, and highly digestible proteins, so the demand for culinary mushrooms will likely continue to increase. Other creative uses for fungi are proliferating in various sectors, including agriculture, cosmetics, fashion, forestry, music, and pollution control. Mycelia, the fungal equivalent of roots and flowering plants, are a fast-growing, durable, and tough biodegradable fiber that is being employed in the production of, quote, biomaterials, acoustic panels, construction, and packing materials, high-quality leather and high-end clothing, auto parts, furniture, shoes, and even yoga mats and burial suits. And fungi have an unparalleled ability to clean up polluted soil and water, including toxic pollution from petroleum byproducts and even some radioactive waste, a process termed mycoremediation. And I highly recommend checking out Paul Stamets' TED Talk, How Mushrooms Can Save the World, for more information on this incredible topic. Stamets and colleagues have investigated fungi-derived options to stave off honeybee disease and colony collapse disorder, which present a significant threat to the well-being of U.S. agriculture. Fungi also are being studied as a targeted means to attack and destroy insect pests in the home and on the farm. And mycologists believe that many more potential uses for our fungal friends exist. Fungi are widely regarded as master chemists. Even drugs that were believed to be produced by plants were later learned to be manufactured by fungi. Taxol, a multi-billion-dollar cancer drug, first isolated from the bark of the Pacific yew tree, is now known to be created by endophytic fungi living within the tree. In western South America, a small herb known as piripiri has long been valued as a versatile and effective plant medicine for various purposes, so much so that it has been called the ginseng of the Amazon. After years of study, ethnobotanist Glenn Shepard discovered the secret that gives piripiri its reputed potency. The plant is parasitized by a fungus, which, when studied in the lab, yielded 8 novel alkaloids related to LSD, which was itself developed in the lab as a semi-synthetic derivative of alkaloids extracted from the ergot fungus. And his indigenous guides and teachers have shared with Shepard another botanical healing mystery, the bizarre gentian ghost plant of the Amazon, which, unlike most flowering plants, produces no chlorophyll and therefore cannot feed itself, but extracts nutrients from fungal partners. According to Shepard, his indigenous colleagues value this herb for improving hunting skills. They rub the flowers directly into their eyes, claiming this enhances their visual acuity and hand-eye coordination. Vital skill upgrades when feeding your family depends on your proficiency with the blowgun or a bow and arrow. As with piripiri, Shepard suspects that the chemical magic of these ghost plants is due to fungi within. One of the most promising recent developments in Western medicine is the study and use of hallucinogens to treat intractable ailments like depression and PTSD that feature a significant emotional component, and psilocybin has led the way. This extraordinary molecule, the active component in the magic mushrooms first taught to ethnobotanist Richard Schultes by his Mazatec indigenous guides in southern Mexico in 1938, is producing measurable benefits for mental health challenges such as anxiety, depression, substance abuse, eating disorders, and more. And people in high-stress occupations, from law enforcement to Navy SEALs, are increasingly turning to psilocybin mushrooms to better cope with the challenges and traumas they face. New organizations like VETS, Veterans Exploring Treatment Solutions, and the Healing Warrior Church of Texas, I love that name, are being organized specifically to meet this burgeoning need. In the hands of master shamans who first learned of hallucinogens like psilocybin, peyote, and ayahuasca, these plants and fungi serve as biological scalpels to reach and sometimes cure afflictions that Western physicians previously could not. With enhanced study and more widespread use of these substances and compounds by Western physicians and other healers, seemingly miraculous results are ever more possible, even within the context of Western society. Matthew Johnson, a leading psychiatrist at Johns Hopkins, wrote about psilocybin, quote, "From very ill to very healthy, profound changes to outlook and personality can result from one facilitated dose. Patients regularly report that the experience clearly ranks among the most meaningful experience of their lives, with positive and enduring changes to attitude, behavior, mood, outlook, and spirituality." Ironically, just as we can find, identify, use, and appreciate fungi as never before, they are threatened at an ever-growing rate. Cloud forests, like the Ecuadorian ecosystem in which the new species of psilocybin mushroom was collected, are rich in many species of fungi and orchids, but like most pristine forests in the tropics, are besieged by everything from climate change to road building. Most conservation efforts in equatorial latitudes have focused on large, attractive vertebrates like elephants and primates. Fungi, however, which literally tie the ecosystems together, have long been overlooked. Scientists cannot accurately estimate how many species of fungi exist, with approximations ranging from 1 million to more than 9 million. If scientists can still find new species of highly sought-after groups like magic mushrooms, imagine the untapped potential of more obscure species like the ones that yielded cyclosporine or the peri-peri alkaloids. It wasn't until just a few years ago that the first global organization to protect fungi, the Fungi Foundation, was established by Giuliana Furci, the scientist who led the team that cataloged and named psilocybe stametsii. And Giuliana is somebody I am honored to call a friend and who was interviewed on an earlier episode of Plants of the Gods. Nevertheless, fungi remain the least studied group of organisms with the greatest potential for feeding the hungry, healing the sick, cleaning the environment, and enhancing and augmenting our spiritual practices and well-being. In the words of Paul Stamets, quote, "Mushrooms are food for the body and medicine for the soul," end of quote.
If you've enjoyed this podcast, please remember to check out other episodes, from ayahuasca to magic mushrooms, from the ethnobotany of warfare to the history and prehistory of wine. Please give us a top rating and subscribe and share with like-minded folks. We appreciate your support for the protection of the knowledge and biodiversity of South America by the Amazon Conservation Team. Stay tuned for some sneak previews of Season 6. In the meantime, revisit your favorite episodes and learn all about the plants of the gods.